So what's going on, guys? My name is Mr. Dalek JD, and in today's video we're going to be exploring what makes a zombies map scary. Now, we had the announcement of RAVE in the Redwoods, which is the first DLC map coming to Infinite Warfare Zombies, and the developers deemed it as being a horrifying experience, a very foreboding zombies map, and the idea itself of a zombies map taking place in a dark abandoned woods at night makes for a very scary atmosphere indeed. Now, in this video we're going to be exploring exactly what makes a zombies map scary and looking at past Treyarch zombie maps examples of what they've achieved, in my opinion, was that factor of scare and horror. I'd love to know down below in the comment section if you agree with anything I've mentioned in this video or if you have different opinions down below in the comment section. But let's jump into this, and the first thing we need to look at is exactly what the developers at Infinity Ward said about RAVE in the Redwoods being scary.
To the 1990s, to a place that is such a stark contrast from what we did in Zombies in Spaceland. I think players are in for a real surprise. We made them really comfortable in Spaceland by opening up lanes, making it bright and colorful. This is really a horror film brought to life in a video game form. It's going to blow people's minds.
The level has this dark, foreboding, kind of spooky vibe.
Some of the wording they used in those clips was stuff like horror in video game form, stuff like it being dark and foreboding, and a real contrast to what we got used to with Spaceland. I'm really excited because it's been a long time since Zombies has had the vibe of it being scary, and just from the footage alone you really do get that vibe. Now, the unique thing about RAVE in the Redwoods is, from the footage we've seen at least, it looks like it's going to deliver an experience which Treyarch hasn't given us precisely in this manner of the horror and cabin in the woods, which really plays on people's emotions and thoughts, and this is something which could be really good if they manage to pull it off. Now, big emphasis on the word if, because there are a few things in that trailer that do make me have my doubts. If you guys cast your memory back to April of this year when we got the reveal of Zetsubo no Shima, Jason described it as,
"It's probably one of the scariest maps we've done."
Don't kid yourself, Jason, we're not scared of Shrek. There has been a few Treyarch zombie maps before then and now that, in my opinion, are the scariest that we've seen so far, and let's take a look at why they were scary. Starting in no particular order, we're going to start talking about my favourite zombies map that's ever been created, which is Mob of the Dead. Now, I'm sure I don't even need to start explaining why it's my favourite or why it's scary, but one of the main things that this map does incredibly well is it creates an atmosphere, and it's very specific to this map. As soon as you start playing it, you feel like you're engrossed. You feel like you're in this gritty, rotting prison. This doesn't sound like a huge deal, but this was the first map to feature dynamic music changes depending on where you were in the map, and there's a lot of these themes that are just spine-chilling to hear. There's stuff like the infirmary theme, which I have playing right now, and this was such a fantastic little bit of music that I downloaded the entire soundtrack when this first came out. The map is also very dark and gloomy. A lot of the colors are very dark. All the quotes that the characters speak about are actually very depressing and just puts you in this very strange mood, which a lot of other zombie maps don't really do. And not only that, but it contains a jump scare Easter egg, which was the very first time we ever saw this within a zombies map. And the first time you ever experienced this, if you don't get scared and jump when you see this, then you're not human. I can still remember seeing this when this map first came out, because Liam was the first person in the world to find out this Easter egg, and his reaction was priceless.
It was so scary. Right here, I stood right here and aim over there with your sniper.
The crawler's down.
What? What is happening, guys? What the hell's happening?
Oh my god!
What? What? Where? 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 Where do you look at?
Now, this map is indeed set in Alcatraz, and this is also set in the 1930s, and back then Alcatraz would not have been a pleasant place to be, and you definitely get that feeling within this map. And that's something important as well, is getting the time period correct with the atmosphere and tension that the map can bring. Certain sections like the shower room, for example, are just downright creepy. You got all these bodies hanging from the walls and blood smeared absolutely everywhere. Not to mention these dog heads which appear out of nowhere, a huge zombified prison guard. Those are just some of the things that not only make the Mob of the Dead experience very, very unique, but also quite damn scary. Now, with this next map, all you need to do is watch this intro and you already know what map I'm going to be talking about, but that's right, we are talking about Nacht der Untoten, the very first zombies map ever created. Now, for a very first zombies map, it's interesting that I picked this as one of the scariest because, let's be honest, it is. It's located in an abandoned airfield where you were pitted up against infinite waves of the undead for as long as possible. Now, due to this being the very first map ever, it's relatively simple in comparison to pretty much any map that's come after it, but that doesn't mean it's not scary. Now, the footage you're watching is Black Ops 1, but the World at War version is definitely more spooky in my opinion. The setting of it being at the dark of night, and the fact that at this point in time when the game was fresh and new, we didn't expect anything of zombies as what we've had now. We've been gifted with so many awesome zombie maps, and we had no expectation at this point in time of what was coming in the future, and damn was this freaky. The size of the map is one thing as well, being very, very small, and the fact the zombies start walking very slowly in towards the cabin before breaking down the barricades, and then in the later rounds just suddenly sprinting, should get you scared. And the fact that the zombies are running through this crazy misty fog that's at one point you can't see the zombies at all and the next you just see a whole army of them chasing, it makes you feel uneasy. And unlike most maps nowadays, I feel like your senses are heightened a lot when you're playing Nacht der Untoten, because the sounds of the zombies ripping the barricades, it's so loud, the screams change as the map progresses, and the fact that you're plopped in here and there's no real hope. You're stuck within these very fine contained spaces and you're never leaving this area, you're never getting outside, you're never exploring anywhere, you're doomed. And what's even crazier is your character has no voice. No players in the game have any voices besides just the sounds of the undead, and that is creepy in its own right. And also back in the day, that was a real big attraction to the zombies mode, was it was quite scary, and I think as time's gone on, zombies has definitely become less scary, and I'd love to see it brought back into the full force of it being scary, and RAVE in the Redwoods could be something that could do that. But the only map that I think can top this Nacht der Untoten scary factor is Verruckt. Verruckt was the first ever zombies DLC map to come out, which was a lot larger than the Nacht der Untoten map, having more than twice the rooms and featured many more new weapons and utilities. But just because it had all those new features didn't mean it was any less scary. The main feature of the map is that it had two spawn areas which are separated by an electric door, and the door only opens if the power switch is activated. So when you're playing in co-op, you're actually locked off from your friends and you need to work together to make sure one of the sides manages to power on the power, and that is a really unique feature that I don't think we've ever seen since actually in a zombies map. The zombies themselves in this map are much more aggressive than in Nacht der Untoten, and unlike the previous map, the zombies could now attack players through the barriers. Now, what made Verruckt a very, very unique map is that these zombies are much faster than any other zombies in any other maps, and they can easily outrun players if they don't sprint with a pistol, submachine gun or shotgun. If you've ever played or seen a custom zombie map and wondered why they mention the words Verruckt runners, now you know, because they are really, really fast. Now, this map is iconic for having some very small minor Easter eggs which really give the map the really spooky, horrific horror vibe. Now, the whole point of this map is it is a asylum. Now, in the original storyline of zombies, Peter McCain was inserted into Group 935 to report all ongoing experiments inside of Verruckt, and a Marine recon team was sent in to evacuate him, and part of that team consisted of Tank Dempsey. And as their extraction plan quickly failed, Dempsey was the only survivor and Richtofen's newest test subject. By the Juggernog machine you can find this interactable operating table, and you need to crouch next to this valve, and you can hear this drill sound and this screaming which you can hear in the distance, which is extremely creepy. Now if you go over to the opposite spawn room and go near quick revive and crouch near this infirmary section, you can hear the screaming cries of both a man, woman and even a baby, which is really creepy. A lot of nasty things happen in this map, and it genuinely gave you a really sort of uncomfortable vibe, which is something that I don't think we've really felt since. And that whole World at War saga of zombie maps was really when zombies was at its core the most scary. Now with our DLC map RAVE in the Redwoods, it's obvious that Infinity Ward drew a lot of inspiration from those classic 90s horror films such as Friday the 13th, and even one of the new characters they very quickly introduced in the trailer is a new one called the Slasher, which to me reminds me a lot of Jason from Friday the 13th, this slow creepy guy that's going to be walking around and perhaps trying to kill you. A lot of people have suggested it could also be the new David Hasselhoff and just a playable character that could be the only lone survivor left in this abandoned woods. But to me, the trailers already give me this great atmospheric feel of just gritty darkness, where there's just a lot of weird and uneasy feeling where you just don't really know what's going to happen next. Now the one thing that I think is going to really ruin that experience is the rave part of the trailer. Now Brian Bright goes on Twitter to describe this as what he calls delirium vision. You can really notice it during that segment, and also when you look at the concept art for the map, because the teaser trailer showed the abandoned cabin woods at night and it looks very normal, but then when you turn on these generators around the map, it activates something called delirium vision, and suddenly all these ultraviolet scribbles and drawings everywhere suddenly come alive and you can see them. Now to me this sounds like a somewhat similar feature to Afterlife mode from Mob of the Dead, where in that you could see things and activate things that you couldn't see and activate normally, and this sounds to be the same thing. Now delirium vision sounds like and looks like something quite silly where you can see all these vibrant ultraviolet colours, but perhaps there is more than meets the eye with this, and there's going to be a ton of creepy scary things that you can only see in this delirium vision. Now, I think them using the word delirium as the sort of mode for this is very interesting, because the whole basis around delirium is a basically declining in your sense of being able to think normally. And what I mean by this is it affects your disorganization of your behavior, the way you interpret actually seeing things, the way you sleep and seeing hallucinations and delusions. And if they play along with this theme, then this could be a really special zombies map indeed. We saw Treyarch go down the route of hallucinations inside of Zetsubo no Shima, and the only real thing that was really scary about that map was the jump scare itself. That was very creative, but the hallucinations that you could experience from the spores never actually made you see anything too freaky. It just added some blood and some weird audio at times, but this could really change things where you could actually see things pop up on screen, perhaps even several jump scares or something like that. It ties in very well with the idea of the sort of rave behavior and culture that existed back in the 90s, and we could be in for seeing some really trippy stuff within this map. But let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Let me know what you think is the most scariest zombies map that we've ever had, and what are you thinking about this weird new delirium vision that they've added into Rave in the Redwoods. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button down below. I enjoyed making this and I hope you enjoyed watching it as well. And if you want to see more videos like this, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. But thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.